Hi all. Right, been a lot of the fun stuff. Body alignment. Obviously before we fill the tool in, we need to make damn sure that every single panel gap is where we want it, so at least we're starting from a reasonably good a good basis. And basically it'll make the following bodies a lot easier to line up. So we've cut out the wheel arch vent area. We needed to put a 3mm reduced return, so basically we needed a surface that was 3mm down for the main front clip, because there'll always be something here. Now if somebody doesn't want them, they wanted a blank panel, and that's fine. We'll just do a blank panel and they can either glass it in or just have it off. But then it also gives you the options of having different styles of vents in there. You could have it completely open, so you could have a vent with just a great big hole in it, or you can have an infill panel with just a hole in it, or you can have the multiple vents, which is probably what I'm going to favour. So we've done the two panels either side, so we sort of splash moulded the outside shape. It's not a perfect representation of being lowered, but it's close and near enough. It has the correct profile of the wheel arch. It's just now been pushed down technically. The panels we made obviously were wider than the aperture, so that I fiberglassed them into the back. So I just temporary riveted them, covered the end of the temporary rivets with clay, and then fiberglassed them in. So once I did one layer, take the temporary rivets out, and then did a second layer, and now that's fine. So that'll be good enough for the moulding for the front. Next project, as far as the front clip's concerned, is the headlamp reduction. So we've got to do similar to the same thing with here. We need a one reduction panel with an 1/8 of an inch plus further back, because then the acrylic headlamp covers will basically will fit in and will be the same body shape as that. Obviously with this particular car, we don't need a bump or anything in the lamp, so it literally will just follow that exact shape. So I'll take a secondary set of tooling off the corner and basically use that, mark it out, and then use that for the production of the headlamp covers. Not too sure what temperature they need for that, so I'll have to investigate that first. There's a couple of ways of doing it. One of them is basically you make the tooling and then you cover it in what's basically felt. They take the cell cast acrylic out of the oven, which they've heated up, now becomes more like cloth than plastic. They lay it in the oven, lay it on the mould, and then you need a B part for the mould, basically just to push it in and to save scratching the plastic. When they do that, they put felt on both sides, like the A and the part of the mould, to sort of squish the mould together to get the shape. So that's what I think they're going to do. So there's a couple of plastics companies in town. So anyway, that's the headlamp. That'll be the next section. There's tiny little bits to finish off. Had to do the little bumps here and there to miss the ends of the chassis rails. Still managed to get a release angle, at least, that there's no lock, so I can do a one-piece mold for the front. It should come up. Shouldn't have to worry too much. We'll have to do a parting line, a second piece across the front, and obviously around the sides, and definitely around the front corner here, because obviously that's going to be a lock. But yes, that's realistically, it's a case of spraying this now. I had a very kind gentleman that's now been helping me, should we say, with some advice as to exactly what's the best way to finish this, to make a plug, as they call it in the boat building world, but plug, mold, buck, however you want to call it. He has decades of experience building those massively large, long, like racing boats with the twin V8s in the back. Kind of things you see in Miami Vice, so he's helping me out with what I should do and what processes and what steps I should do to make this a really shiny kind of plug to then take the tooling off, so which is kind of handy. So vents on the side, and whether I've touched on that before, realistically we're just going to shape this a little bit more, so fill a little bit more of this just to give it a little bit more of a curve so it's not so straight, and do the inside a little bit as well. The ceiling here is flat at the moment. I'm going to make it slightly curved. Realistically, that's hardly for styling because it's out of the way, but it's more of a question of making it easier for me to take parts from the tooling. So most thing, and door fits are about there. These are stock doors, so really at the moment we'll be doing a carbon inner skins. Yes, I haven't got the gas rams yet. We'll be doing a carbon inner skin, depending on how successful, though we might even do carbon outers. So doors are at least pivoted and hinged. They're in. So there forward, we're not doing too badly. Now the back, poor old thing. It's been lying around, obviously not bolted to the body. I hate to say this, but for over a bloody decade, that's just ridiculous. Shows how long I've been working on other people's cars and not my own. That is a real pain. It's moved, it's shrunk. Obviously we've chopped. This white piece here is a different piece. It's like a different shape we had put to that. So we've chopped from here round to there. We've chopped all the back. We've actually lengthened the original rear clip here. Is lengthened about here by about 3 inches. So it's been quite chopped and changed. This as a large structure. And obviously the back is all new board and filler and God knows whatever else. And unfortunately the back end has slightly lost its shape, so we're going to have to struggle with this one and get it in. We've done some chassis mounts up here with some rubber feet to give us the height reference there. We've done another, we started the rear frame, which you can see is here, which also has 2 rubber mounts. The cross port exhaust box, so one box with an inlet here with a cross, then there'll be an outlet down to the diffuser. That'll all come off of this frame as well, so it's a start of a frame that'll end up quite big. Also the rear wing kind of mounts in this very central area here, so that'll have to obviously take the forces to that frame as well, so be reasonably substantial. But it brings all the forces basically straight into the middle of the car again, so I'm not having to worry about loading onto the outside. It's quite centralized. So yes, unfortunately this particular thing here isn't there for any other reason other than the fact that it happens to weigh just enough, and I've put it in that point that levels the clip out of the back. Yes, I have some cutting and sectioning to do yet. Note, small ½ inch difference in width there. So I went around with the laser, string lined it with the front and rear clip off, put the laser down the sides once we've done the string lines, mark the floor to give me a vertical plane surface. Basically now to start marking out some numbers to give me some reference from left to right. The main centre tub, doors, side sills, there's only one minor prop, which is the back there, which I've now corrected, which is basically why there's that gap there. That aren't too bad. This wheel arch, I think we did this originally. We put like a camber on. If you look from the front view, you kind of see the camber of the wheel, but I don't really need as much static camber for road driving. ½ degree is fine because I've got a lot more camber on turning because of the camber caster setup. So I don't need quite so much camber. On a race car, that'd be fine. You know, 1.5 degrees, 2 degrees static camber, and then worry about it. Actually, I think if I remember rightly, one of the race settings for an old GTR was like 2.5 camber, static camber before you start. Just vaguely remember, but I don't need that so much because I get actually quite a bit of camber on turning just through the geometry now. So I don't need a bodywork that kind of sticks. Oh, let's just don't need a bodywork that kind of slants that way quite so much. So I've got between bottom here at 10, top there at near 30, I've got 20 millimeters of like the bodywork being in. Don't really need that quite so much, so I'm going to feather this and bring this wheel arch just out slightly. I need clearance for the wheel. We haven't got the rotors on these wheels at the moment, and these are the old wheels, so basically they have a little less, a little more offset. So the HREs have a little less offset, so I need to add a little bit of wheel arch area, especially at the top for bump. So we're going to have to feather this from sort of virtually nothing up to probably about 6 or 7 or 8 mil, and then back down again. I am symmetrical on both sides, which is handy, apart from this point here there's about 4mm different from left to right, which is kind of annoying. But I'll sand one side and I'll sort of skim 2mm filler on the other. Same thing here, where sort of 10 at the bottom, 10 at the bottom of the wheel arch to 30 here. So this wheel arch leans in 20. So I don't need quite so much of that. So I need to basically bring that out. Plus it allows me to push the wheels as far out as possible then. So yeah, just going around spotting all the dimensional points and taking measurements and putting it on. So like just put a laser down the side, marked it up so it's parallel, and then just took numbers and figures down the sides. We're like 80mm on here, we're like 79, 78 in the other. I'm not really fussed about 2mm. This point here on this wheel arch here, compared to the other, we're like 1 or 2mm out, that's fine. This here, now I made this part solid, made a bracket on the inside that it bolts the chassis, so this will just sort of pull in and we'll guide from there. But the one odd thing, which kind of bugged me, is the back end of the car, or should we say the arse of the car, the very back end of the wheel arch here, it's got quite bulbously stuck out. I never really noticed it before, to be totally honest. I've just measured that to the other side in comparison to other stuff. That's how it was. Don't like it, to be honest. It sticks out too far. If nothing else, you want to remove it and get rid of it, because behind the wheel it's just it's just interference. So I'm not sure whether we might end up losing this reduction feature here and pull that wheel arch in a little bit. You know, it makes sense to be proud of the wheel in front of the wheel, so the air gets past it. But behind it, it's just a sail. It's just drag. So, not overly sure how that worked out. And I thought for some reason there was just a problem with this side, sticking out here. But actually, this is just literally, it's just this panel here has moved, which is a shame, but such is life. And actually, at the back of the arch there, we were 2-3mm away from the laser. Parallel again here, we were 3 and 3mm. So actually it's the same on both sides. So it is actually how we did it. Yes, some sectioning fun. Also on the back here, we've kind of had, it was a shape that we took off a Perspex window that was built for a friend's car in the UK. It has a kind of a dip here between there and there. Don't like that. It also has a lip here, which has a lip here like this, which was a sort of feature that on the McLaren F1, where it had a vent there and it would suck air down and it was going to diffuse it. That's what McLaren, Gordon I was saying about the fans on the F1. It was kind of an issue there. Well, the original rear scoop that we were going to fit would kind of end there and it would blend out, and it was sympathetic to the original scoop. I'm not having that scoop now. We're basically going to blend out the roof scoop a lot sooner. I don't need it to come all the way down here. We're not forcing induction into a sort of an 8-stack injection at the top there. So this is kind of useless for me anyway. So I want to get rid of it. So what I've done underneath is I've filled all of this area with foam that doesn't interfere with the bar, and I've fiberglassed across it with 3 layers of glass. So now basically I've got a structure across it. So this area here needs to be taken out. This needs to be filled. This reduced a little bit, not quite so much of a ducktail. Then we'll reduce the angle somewhat, and then we'll fiberglass and refill that, and basically blend this back in a little nicer. So we have the option then we won't pull a window in this one, and I won't do a reduced panel like we've done on the wheel arches, like a stepped reduced panel. I won't do that on the back, because I think the window is going to be like a Mark II generation, or the next step on. What we can do in the mold, once we've got the outer shape perfectly, then I can lay 3mm wax, which is basically like basically imagine like a 3mm thick paper, but it's in a wax form, and then I can lay that into the mold and produce the step that you'd need to then put a Perspex window, or probably a Lexan window on the back, to be honest. I can do that as a later as a later option, but I think for the first car we won't bother. So yes, it'll all be in glass. So yeah, I've got lots of playing to do on the back, lots of adjusting to do. Unfortunately, I'm going to probably have to cut and section some of this to get it to sit how I want. Probably have to produce some vertical panels on the inside to keep this from being what I want it to be. Pull it in a little bit. Yes, lots of fiberglassing and filler. And then I've got, oh, God knows how many hours of block sanding and whatever else once we spray basically majority of the panels with a gel coat. And then I've got to block sand them down, initially at 180, and then at 400, and then at 800, and then at 1200. So yeah, my futures involves a lot of sanding, so I'll probably end up a really good thief just recently because I'll probably have no fingerprints soon. But yeah, no, it's good. I'm happy with the front almost. A little bit of profiling, that's not really a biggie. The majority of the panel gaps now, I'm dead happy with where the doors are. We can figure that one out. That doesn't take too much to get right. I know I'm happy with it enough that I can get the doors exactly where I want to. We still have some features to do in the doors. I still want a cabin air exit feature in the side of the door. Don't like not having a seal at the bottom of the door, so we're going to have a seal that goes round and basically seals the bottom as well. But then we're going to have a cabin exit air vent. Unfortunately, every part on the bulkhead to have a negative pressure area for the vent to go in, we could end up with the roof scoop making the back quite a little bit more positive pressure, which is nice, but not as convenient for the cabin exit air. You need a cabin exit air vent, or at least somewhere in there, as you close the door, the last thing you want is a pressure wave going in. Plus the fact if you close that off completely, then any entry vent you want that's coming into the car to get fresh air, you need to get the air out. So you need to be able to come in and out of the cabin. Now the entry air, I actually did have a knacker duct here, but when we put the nose on, we've covered it up. So I'm going to reinstate this knacker duct there. That line there will drop down. So we'll drop down there and it'll meet the hole that'll basically be in the front top of the bulkhead, so we can have air that'll directly go into the bulkhead. Now I've still got to figure out the sort of U-trap or P-trap in that to stop most of the rainwater getting in, and then we're going to have a flap on the bulkhead to basically want to seal that off and don't want it, shut it up. But to be honest, majority of the time that'll be open to allow some fresh air through the cabin, and it makes the AC work a little happier. Don't fog the screen up quite so much. So yes, there we are. Progress just kind of slow. Just yes, way too much Bondo. But we're getting there. We're definitely getting there, and it's making progress. So every little step I go forward, then it does cheer me up. Doing the vents, getting the door, getting the majority of the door, majority of the shut lines up front good. Do have to make some alterations to the splitter, which is a shame. When we put the wheels on, we found out that I'd cut the splitter way too far back on the travel of the wheel. I wanted to be like 20 millimeters away from the wheel at any time, so basically make the minimum amount of cutout for the floor when the suspension's on full droop, because at full droop, which is where the hydraulics will be, which is when you're going to be in car park mode, in which case you'll need full lock and at full droop, because the hydraulics will push the shocks to their completely open length. But the wheel's still too far away, so basically I need to add a little bit to the splitter in some areas, but that's fine. Now I've found I need to spray gel coat to get a perfect release from that, then that's okay anyway, it's going to be resprayed. So yes, my ramblings, we're getting closer. Yeah, I've still got a couple of months, probably 3 or 4 to be totally honest, until I'm ready realistically to get to where I want to be. Really wanted to get on with the next Porsche chassis and lining up the Porsche body, but not quite there yet, but we will be during the summer, and then we can pull tooling off of this and we can pull tooling off of the Porsche, and we'd be able to well, we'll be able to sell bodies for both of them now. But yes, oh, there is a yes, as much as I tried to delay some of the customers for this, we do have one gentleman who is I've been talking to now for way too long. He's sending me a BMW V10. Yes, I know I managed to cram an LS in there by shortening everything. Now I've got to cram in a V10. It's like kind of so the next one of these, we're going to have to slightly redesign the back. Okay, it's just a question of wishbones, orientating the wishbones a little bit in a different direction. I'm not going to muck around with the bodywork. I'm not going to move the wheels back even further. We may have to change the slight design of the rear bulkhead and bring it in a little bit to allow some of the accessory drives at the bottom of the BMW. It's dry. It's going to be dry sump. It's actually for another daily dry sump, same as this. So we're going to have to redesign that lower section there to allow some accessory drives. It's going to be more into the bulkhead. Also, the because the engine's going to be pushed forward, it's going to push back a little bit as well. I've had to be quite yes. I had to make some decisions with the Transaxle. So there'll be another X-Track 6-speed sequential going into the next car, and it has a clutch at the back. So not at the front. There's the input shaft at the front, but the clutch is at the back. So hopefully that'll save us another 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches. Probably only 1.5 inches, to be honest, at the front, because the clutch will be at the back. We'll probably have the drive shaft angle. It's perfectly in line at the moment with the drop of about 1.5 inches. We'll probably end up pushing the gearbox back a little bit to allow, we'll probably have 1.5 inches drop and 1.5 inches back there as well. It still puts the drive shaft at less than 5 to 6 degrees. And most of the drive shaft manufacturers like the thing to be at some form of a slight angle. It's not the best for power because you're always moving the CV joints, but what it is you don't wear the CV joints out in one particular point, so you give the joints are always articulating slightly. So that's just enough room down. Now we do have about 5 or 6 inches behind that four-wheel drive Porsche box. The X-Track box is a little bit shorter, so we should be able to get the box in the back. If we need to do a small bodywork mod at the back, that's fine, that's okay. I don't mind doing a small amount. So, and yes, the next biggie will be the diffuser manufactured. Probably the Mark, God knows how many different ones I've done now. But as if we look from the back, like an eye line, you can see there's not much in the way. Starting from the rear bulkhead, which is in front of the engine now. The previous ones we started at the engine plate, so basically at the back of the engine. Now we've lengthened the diffuser, the full length of the motor, so I think it's about 28 inches further forward. We can now still get the height that I want here, but we can get it at a very safe 8.5 degree angle. So we are now basically in the realms of pretty much, as long as I don't laterally expand it too much, we should easily have a diffuser that we can virtually guarantee will work, because I say anything less than 10 degrees, 8 degrees especially, is a pretty solid and simple number that we know that it will follow and not it won't lose the air control off the diffuser. The previous diffusers we've got, which is the ones against the wall there, they did curve up. I didn't quite understand that the angle they would think I'd probably lose, because they look great, but they might not work so well without CFD or without a tunnel and some work. It would be hard to know that they're actually going to function properly. So now we know they are, because basically now they're 1.8 meters. No, longer than that, I think now. Probably close to 2 meters. Actually, there's a quick way of finding that out, guys. Use that thing called a tape measure, mate. Ah, there you go. I think in the CAD drawing, I think they were 1.8 meters long. So we are Oh no, 1.7, I tell a lie. So they're going to be about 1.7 meters long, which is fine. It's quite a bit longer than they were going to previously be, which the ones that finished at the engine plate would only have been, well, yeah, not even 1.1 meters long. So yes, before I can finalise the shape of the bottom of there, I need to build the diffusers. But, that's pretty much flat tunneling without too much curve. So yet again, I'll just laminate some. I'll laminate some fiberglass up on some flat panels and build it the same kind of way I did those previous videos. You'll see, but effectively there'll be only very minor curves on them, if hardly at all. But yes, body getting close. Anyway, wow, 26 minutes I've been raffling. Okay, if you've stayed to the end, well done. But we are getting progress on it, so I want to be pulling the new body, lightweight body. Obviously won't have a massive amount of filler. This one will. It needs to be pulled this year and on the car, and then basically we need to do all the final assembly, or not final, the complete dry mock-up of everything on the car this year. So wiring loom, plumbing,